Good morning. Welcome to an incredible day for us here in the city of Newark and the country as well. So I just first want to say thank you. I have the deepest gratitude to our Vice President Kamala Harris, to this administration, the Biden-Harris administration overall, and thank her for coming here to our city of Newark. We want to thank Governor Phil Murphy for leading the state of New Jersey and helping us get to the point that we're at today. We want to thank our Senator Teresa Ruiz, who you'll hear from shortly, for her endless support, the County Executive Joe DiVincenzo, who helped us get here. Without him, we would not be here this fast. Director Adeem, who you'll hear from as well, who did a yeoman's job in leading us to this point. Also like to thank, Senator Bob Menendez, Senator Cory Booker, Congressman Frank Pallone, Congressman Donald Payne, our DEP Commissioner here, Sean LaTourette, and also all of the dignitaries and special guests and community activists and residents and all of the folks that are here, celebrating with us this morning. It's two quotes that I think of immediately before I bring the senator on. One is Muhammad Ali, who says that impossible is just a big word thrown around by small people who find it easier to live in the world that they were given than explore the power that they have to change it. James Baldwin also said that only people who have struggled with poverty know how truly expensive it is to be poor. And so those two things really set the stage for why we're here today. People told us we would never be able to get this done. This is an impossible thing to do. It would take you 10 years or more. With our work, our collaboration, with our leadership, we were able to get to this point in God's grace. We started at a very low point, and it is great and emotional to end today like this. So I am ecstatic, and Muhammad Ali's quote does incredible service to that. And lastly, we could not have done this without resources. It is truly expensive to be poor, to not have the money, the support, the resources to change the things that need to be changed in your life, to be able to pull every lead service line out of the ground. So cities all over America struggle with this, which is why this administration's infrastructure bill is so incredibly important, where billions of dollars are going to be given to cities across America to pull lead service lines out. Wish it was done 3 years ago, but hey, they get to do it now. They get to benefit from the work that we've done here in the city of Newark. And I wish them well, and their children and their children's children well, to be able to pull every lead service line out of their ground immediately, without hesitation, for every family in every city in America. So thank you for being here today. This is an incredible accomplishment for the people of the city of Newark. I know a lot of folks say it's my accomplishment, but it's the accomplishment for the people of the city. Kareem's leadership, CDM Smith is here with us, all of the folks in this community, the community activists, everybody who helped us get to this point where we are today. I say God bless everybody, Godspeed, and God bless the great city of Newark. Next, we have Senator Ruiz, who we could not have done this without the collaboration of the county, of the state, our legislators who fought tirelessly to help us pass the laws and help us expedite the things we needed to expedite in order to get this accomplished, get across the finish line. So Senator Teresa Ruiz was always there with us on the front lines, like she's always been. So without further ado, I would like you to give a round of applause for Senator Teresa Ruiz.
Thank you, Mayor, and I'd like to take this opportunity for all of us to give a round of applause to our mayor, who I don't think has gotten his shout out today for the work that's being done. So I clearly remember this moment, a crisis facing our great city, phone calls, emails, exchanges, trying to prioritize scenarios, and the county executive called and said, what if we leverage our bond rating and partner up? What do you think? I said, I think it's an extraordinary concept. And quickly, 3 levels of government became like a mega transformer to show what government should do on behalf of constituencies. See, today, Newark is being echoed and exemplified on a national, international level. This is not the first time that we can point to that the city of Newark is at the forefront of genius. This is just one of the times that Newark is at the forefront of genius. But this is what people in this country, in this state, in our communities want to see. A government that works on their behalf, that doesn't look for excuses, that doesn't create bureaucracy, but that uses courage, that uses leverage, that works alongside of constituencies, and that creates a pathway. And what does that pathway look like? 3 levels of government. A governor who was committed to the process in every single way, a mayor who had a direction and a vision with his Department of Water and Sewer, a county executive who lent the triple bond A rating to create those finances, a state legislature who created enabling legislation so that the city council had the power to do that extra step, and then a plan that took 3 years, over 23,000 lines. You want to talk about a goal? Newark pushed through lead to get to the other side. Newark pushed through lead to protect our children. Newark pushed through lead to tell this country to say, we admitted we had a problem. We didn't make excuses. We used courage and every single lever. And quite frankly, I hope that the state and every level of government continues to use these opportunities. It requires passion. It requires consistency. It requires creativeness. But I think with the county executive, with a dynamic individual like the mayor, with our federal delegation that you're here from in the back, with legislatures like the ones who are here today, and with the resiliency of the people of the city of Newark, no one can stop this great place, the largest city in the state, of showing the entire world that when you need an example of how to do things, just come to Brick City. Without further ado, go ahead, that does deserve a round of applause. Without further ado, I want to bring a man whose genius and his level of expertise lent to this, because you can do the legislation, you can come up with the pathway, but if you don't have a coordinated approach to doing this, then they're just words and they're just laws. And Director Kareem Adeem indicated that with his prowess in the department, today you have seen the benefit of it. Today we have seen the benefit of our children. And I would be remiss that without her really being here physically at this moment, I want to welcome the Vice President of this country, who gives every single woman hope and who gives all of our daughters hope. But let's welcome Director Kareem to give words to the Department of Water and Public Sewer.
Good morning. Thank you. First and foremost, I want to thank the great residents of the city of Newark. None of this could have been possible without their cooperation, putting up with us for the last 3 years of all the type of inconveniences, from shutting their streets down, from construction early in the morning and on the weekends to late at night, from paving to pulling lead pipes, to police just detouring them all day. Thank you. We had the great residents here in the city of Newark. Thanks for Mayor Baraka. You know, from the minute Mayor Baraka came into office, he sat down with the water department almost 9 years ago, and we rolled out a plan of infrastructure improvements we wanted to do. And he's always been supportive of upgrading our water and wastewater infrastructure. It's amazing, as we sit here today, to see that in my lifetime alone, that the federal government has committed to upgrading the nation's infrastructure with the bipartisan infrastructure bill. And that's hats off. This is, you know, when I look back at the historic investment that's coming today, we need to make sure we're taking advantage of it, but we also need to make sure that these disadvantaged communities and these environmental injustice communities also be at the front of the line. We know they have problems. We understand they have problems. We've seen the problems. Make sure they're at the front of the line as we move forward to spend this money. And to the city of Newark, we've in the state of New Jersey, we've planted the seed, the Garden State. We've seen it bloom right here in the city of Newark, and around the nation and around the world. They're calling on the city of Newark to show them how we got done. This was a 10-year project, and everybody, the pundits will always say, you know, a project of this magnitude would take a decade or more to finish. We didn't have a decade. We didn't want to wait for a decade. We wanted to show that we can do things efficiently and effectively and do it immediately. And that's what we've done. Thanks to the community groups that came out and supported us, right, on both sides of the aisle, right, because it held us responsible, you know, to come into the neighborhoods and helped us, and our own Newark Street team, our own, you know, UVSO or ICC. We thank you, Clean Water Action, the tireless residents and partners that went door to door and knocked on doors to have residents sign up to be a part of this lead service replacement program. And thanks to our contractors and the vision of the mayor. The mayor had a vision that not only will we spend $190 million on replacing lead service lines, but we will also make sure economically the city residents would be a part of us spending this money. Economic development don't always go into a structure, but it also go into human capital too. To make sure that we sent about 30 Newark residents that were unemployed to come in and have an opportunity to get union scale jobs. Awesome. We took this opportunity to make sure that we can get union scale jobs. To the mom and pop businesses in the city that also were a part of the lead service line replacement, whether it was making printer flyers for residents at community meetings or door knockers to put around when we left a message, we've been here, we're coming back, or things like that. From water testing, we want to thank those. We also want to thank the mom and pop contractors that had the ability to come on board, women-owned and minority businesses, right in the city and outside the city, that followed our model, came on, sat through our rigorous training and classes, and were able to build capital in their companies to be a part of the lead service line replacement program. New Jersey, we're still leading the way, and the city of Newark is at in front of the line when they're leading the way. Thank you. And before I leave, I just want to, say, this wouldn't have happened without the collaboration of our federal, state, and county partners. And a big shout out to our county partners that came up with giving us the ability to have an extra $120 million to expedite this program. And moving forward, please, when we spend this money, make sure we have legislation in place to make lead service lines replacement mandatory in every state, in every town, in every county. Thank you. Oops. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our Congressman, Newark's own, Congressman Donald Payne Jr. He's been a real advocate.
Thank you, and good morning. I want to start by welcoming Vice President Kamala Harris to Newark, and I also want to congratulate Mayor Baraka for his quick work to replace the lead lines contaminated pipes across the city. It is a tremendous accomplishment that I'm very proud to highlight today. When I first learned that Newark's water had unsafe levels of lead, I was shocked. For decades, Newark had some of the finest water, and it was a thing of pride that we had about our water in Newark. But aging pipes and inadequate filters taught us that clean water is something we cannot take for granted. Even though Newark's crisis is over, I'm still working to make sure other communities don't suffer the same fate. For example, I've worked to get more than $53 million for removal of lead-contaminated water pipes like the ones in Newark since I've been in office. I fought to get $55 billion added to the new Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act to get rid of lead-contaminated pipes nationwide. I introduced the Test for Lead Act into Congress to establish stronger water tests for schools across the country. It is now public law and helping to protect students from contaminated water right now. But my work for communities affected by this public health crisis is just not legislative. When I heard about Newark's water crisis, I wrote the Environmental Protection Agency to make sure the city had enough bottled water. Then I handed out bottled water, as we did for all of our residents across the city. That experience created more urgency to get federal funding to remove lead pipes for good water. So no issue is more important than clean drinking water. And I know that today's event will create awareness and the necessary encouragement to other communities to take appropriate actions. And I'd just like to add that, as Senator Ruiz talked about, the 3 levels of government that helped put this together, I want to remind you that the federal government was there as well, with our Senator Booker, who created the legislation that allowed the sewer water monies to be able to be diverted over to drinking water. So all 4 levels of government collaborated to make this happen, and it's a clear example of what government should be about and doing for their communities. And I'd just like to end with a saying from the first African-American mayor in this city's history, Kenneth Allen Gibson, who said, "Wherever the country is going, Newark will get there first." And this is a clear example of us doing that today. So I want to once congratulate and thank the mayor again, the county executive, the state, the mayor, the governor, and the legislature, and everyone involved in making sure that this issue was eradicated. With that now, I'd like to introduce a gentleman who serves in the Congress with me and is the chairman of Energy and Commerce in the House of Representatives, a person that was a big fighter in getting Obamacare through the House of Representatives back then, and has become a great program, the Honorable Frank Pallone.
Thank you. Thank you, Congressman Payne. And, I wanted to first thank Congressman Payne and also the mayor. What Senator Ruiz said about Newark is certainly true. I think some of you probably read, there was an article a couple of weeks ago in the New York Times that was basically saying that Newark is really the model for this lead pipe replacement program for the whole nation, And that's to the mayor's credit and all those that work with him that continue to move Newark forward in such a positive way. But I did want to say that because the vice president is here today, I think a lot of times think that she's here representing the president, and that's always true. But she actually was in charge of the lead pipe and lead paint action plan that was put together at the White House, because she particularly cares about the fact that there are negative impacts of lead, and we don't talk about that much because it's not really very nice to talk about. But that if you don't remove lead in paint and pipes, we know that it has impact, particularly on children and kids long term. So that's really why this is so important. I believe, and I think that most people believe, if they're progressive, that having safe drinking water is a basic human right, right? It is a human right. But on the other hand, it's nice to say that, but it doesn't mean anything unless we have the money and the ways and means to eliminate lead in pipes. And that's what this is all about today. Cities like Newark, many urban areas, as we know, it's just very hard to come up with the money for these major infrastructure projects. And that's why it's so important for the federal government to get involved and provide the funding. And I know that I know this started out, Mayor, because you did get the money from as Congressman Payne said, from the sewage fund, and Senator Booker sponsored that bill, and Don Payne and I, tried to and worked to get it through the House of Representatives. But that was a down payment. We still needed the other money from that we got from these other federal laws, including the infrastructure bill that we're talking about today. But I want to stress that because it is important. And when we talk about this infrastructure bill, the bipartisan infrastructure bill that we're touting today, this is going to provide $15 billion nationwide, and we're hoping there's going to be more forthcoming in future legislation so that cities like Newark can do what's necessary to clean up these pipes. And it's true all over. I have Perth Amboy, which is one of my towns that actually started a few years ago trying to replace the pipes, but they need a lot more. And I also want to thank our administrators. I know that Michael Reagan is here today, Lisa Garcia, who's our regional administrator. They have really emphasized the fact that we have to do more for environmental justice communities, because we know that many times those communities that have high percentages of minorities were the ones that were left out from the federal funding programs that would help them, whether it's lead or it's brownfields or it's transportation projects or whatever. And so this is another example where we're bringing back money at the federal level to those towns that not only need it, but also have been neglected and haven't gotten oftentimes their fair share of the federal funds. So with that, I'd like to now turn it over to Senator Booker. As I said, he was the sponsor of the legislation that allowed us to change that money from sewage to safe drinking water. And then, of course, after him is going to be Senator Menendez, I associate Senator Menendez with infrastructure in general. From when he was in the House, he was always out front, whether it was the Port of New York and New Jersey and here and trying to get money for dredging or whatever it was, always working for those infrastructure dollars. So Senator Booker.
Roz, whenever I get on the basketball court, I feel like, the older I get, the better I was. It's good to be home. The commute this morning was much better than me commuting down to Washington, D.C. And it's good to see so many people here. Assemblywoman Tucker, I cannot tell you, just seeing you here lifts me. Next to the former mayor, we don't only have two former mayors, but Mayor Quintana. Don't you get called Mayor Quintana? No, not really? I feel like I'm amongst family, and I want to be very clear. Newark has always had to fight for everything that we've gotten. And often we've had to fight against folk who gave up on us, didn't believe in us. We've had to fight for justice because we are amidst environmental injustices that go back generations of people who stole from our city by pouring pollutants into our air, into our water. You all know what happened to the Passaic River as corporations did not put things like an Agent Orange plant, not paying for simple drains to contain that stuff, polluted a river that now is costing billions of dollars to clean up and stole from generations of Newarkers. Roz remembers the stories. There was generations of Newarkers who used to be able to go get food from that river. Now you can't even eat anything that comes out of it. And so today, I see my environmental justice leader sitting there shaking her head, Miss Gaddy. Somebody was starting to applaud for you, Miss Gaddy. Why don't you applaud for Kim Gaddy, please? Is she as tough on you as she was on me, man? Look, but the powerful thing about this moment in American history, in Newark history, is that we have this complete alignment of leaders, many of them who now live in our community, who are aligned and fighting not against each other, but in a symphony. I know the county executive couldn't be here because of a schedule conflict, but dear God, you look around and see how he battles for this city, and he is a loyal guy, grew up in this city. We have state leaders, you already heard from Teresa Ruiz, who love Newark, live in Newark, and fight for Newark. We have a governor who has not forgotten how much we supported him, and he's been here to support us. All these resources are now coming together, and we have an alignment all the way to the federal level. From the time I got into the Senate, I was introducing bills about what? Environmental justice. And where did we get the leaders to help us write the bill, Kim Gaddy? We turned back to this community, to activists and leaders to help us write that legislation. And then lo and behold, we elect a president that immediately turns to Senator Menendez and I and says, what can we do? And that's when we started seeing bills that we had been introducing, Don Payne, for years, get suddenly incorporated around issues that were critical. From why do we have such a high maternal mortality rate? especially disproportionately affecting women. He was like, let's incorporate that into what we're doing. Why are black businesses disproportionately unbanked? We've got to do something to help them. That money came here to Newark. And the thing that gave me such great excitement was that he decided to incorporate legislation that I had written about this urgent issue of environmental justice. Roger Leone knows this. Some of the biggest issues facing our kids have nothing to do with what happens in the classroom. It has to do with the asthma rates, epidemic levels in Newark. The number one reason kids miss school in this city is because of asthma, health-related issue they miss school for. The permanent poisoning of a child's brain. We've seen that in Newark with lead paint and lead in our water. And so today is a glorious day. But I do have to say this, all of that help from the president to the Senate, to the Congress, to the state leaders, to the county executive, there has to be local leaders in this city always who are conducting all of that like a symphony to make sure we get something done. What happened in Newark is a national model. Another mayor, not a Quintana, not a Baraka, not a Booker, but there was another mayor y'all remember named Ken Gibson who said, wherever American cities are going, Newark will get there first. Well, thanks to Ras Baraka, and I want to give the director, because I know it's about the team that you have surrounding you, Newark is making that prophetic statement by a former mayor true in reality, that we are showing the nation right now. I was with the president in the White House last night and the vice president. And she and I were talking about the history being made right now. More black women now on the Circuit Court of America. 8, more than every other president of the United States combined. We were talking about the history being made right now. Before any personnel decisions were made by this president, he broke this tradition going back to 1789, the first woman vice president, and she's a woman of color. And here I am, a guy from Newark, sitting in the White House, and I'm talking to a black woman about what you doing tomorrow. And she's like, I'm coming to Newark. Where are you gonna be? I'll be right there with you. So today is a day I will say that the Lord has made, but I will also say today is a day that you all have made, that Newark made possible, that now we have this alignment of officials here. And so I just want to say, before I pass the microphone, I love this city. All that I am has become people putting their faith in me, of us joining together. One of the best experiences I have after the frustration of pounding my head in Washington is to come home and drive around this city and see things that were our ancestors' wildest dreams. Even this building we're in right now, this was fought for by Newarkers who never gave up. And there is a man that has always had our back. He may be a Union County guy, but when I was mayor, he was my go-to guy. When I needed help with grants for the city to keep firefighters employed, when I needed help with infrastructure dollars and water dollars, when I needed help to get the $1 billion cleaned up from the Passaic, there was one guy I called and who always answered my call. And now I have the privilege that he is my senior senator. Hudson County, I said Union County? He's gonna, now he won't talk to me for a week or two. He is really one of the best we have in all of the Newark sort of circle of heroes. He is one of my heroes, a dear friend of mine, the senior senator. I bring to you right now my friend, my brother, Senator Bob Menendez.
Well, good morning, Newark. It is a glorious day. And normally, as a senior senator, I get to speak first, Mayor. But having to follow Cory Booker is a tough job, let me tell you. So, but we are thrilled to have such a champion, not just for Newark, but for New Jersey and for communities across this country in the United States Senate. I can tell you from his work day in and day out From that which you don't see to those magnificent moments on the Senate floor, Cory Booker is just an extraordinary United States Senator, and I'm so blessed to have him as my partner. Let me join in the warm welcome. I know Vice President Harris is almost here, to her and to EPA Administrator Reagan for coming to mark this momentous occasion. I couldn't be more thrilled than to be with my colleagues in the House of Representatives, Chairman Pallone, Congressman Payne, and of course, the mayor of this great city, Mayor Ras Baraka, to declare Newark officially free of lead service lines. Before the city announced its plan, if you asked anyone, they would have told you it is unimaginable that we would reach this moment. However, in just under 3 years, Newark's water lines are lead-free. But it wasn't by accident that we arrived here. Mayor Baraka had a vision. They say, the Bible tells us, is without a vision, the people perish. Well, he had a vision, he made the vision a reality, and the people flourish as a result of it. And his commitment to see it through completion, and County Executive Joe DiVincenzo stepped up to put Essex County's AAA bond rating on the line to provide $120 million in funding to get the job done once and for all. And I'm glad to see that as a result of legislation that I sponsored with Senator Booker, $40 million in federal monies from the Drinking Water Revolving Fund also came to this project. It's hard to overstate what this means for Newark's residents and families. Access to clean drinking water is a fundamental necessity of life and a building block for healthy kids and healthy communities. In the course of just under 3 years, Newark replaced 24,000 lead water service lines with copper pipes. So now, Newark is rightly being celebrated as a national model for these types of infrastructure projects. This project is a testament to what can be accomplished through the collaboration and partnership of local, state, county, and federal government. When government works together, it works best. And this is a powerful example of that. Every New Jerseyan and every American should have confidence that when they turn on the tap, the water that comes out is safe and clean. But far too often, that's not the case. Too often, the water in our homes is contaminated with lead and other pollutants. And we know the devastating consequences of this contamination. Oh, I see my dear friend, the council president, my brother, Luis Quintana. You know from so many in the North Ward the reality of the challenges of contaminated water, particularly for vulnerable populations like children and pregnant women. Bottom line, there is no safe amount of lead in drinking water. Lead contamination is an urgent public health crisis and a core environmental justice issue, as Senator Booker said. Access to lead-free drinking water is a necessity. Whether you live in a well-off community and have the money to replace your own lead service line, or whether, like me, you grew up in a tenement poor in a working-class community. Too often, it's our communities of color and low-income communities who suffer the most from these crises. And these same communities often lack the resources to solve them. That's why I applaud Governor Murphy for signing legislation last year. I see the Speaker is here as well, requiring public water agencies to replace the approximately 350,000 lead service lines in the state within 10 years. That is something to be applauded. And I'm proud to say that along with my colleagues in Congress, we were able to pass the recent Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, a once-in-a-lifetime generational opportunity, the greatest investment since Eisenhower and the interstate highway system that provides a once-in-a-generation investment for the resources we need to turn today's accomplishment into reality for communities throughout New Jersey and, for that fact, across the country. That law contains over $50 billion in funding for our nation's aging water infrastructure, including $15 billion dedicated specifically to lead service line replacement. And we expect New Jersey to receive about $1 billion of those dollars over the next 5 years for water infrastructure and clean water initiatives. And thanks to Administrator Reagan and the leadership of President Biden and Vice President Harris, that funding has already begun to flow directly to our state. So we are celebrating much more than a physical reality. We are celebrating enhancing the lives of the people of Newark. And when we put these federal dollars to work for the people of our state and our nation. And at the end of the day, that is what government is all about, changing the lives of those we represent for the better. Mayor, congratulations to you for leading the way here in Newark.
Please welcome the Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Madam Vice President, welcome back to New Jersey.
It's good to be back.
It is an incredible pleasure to have you back with us again.
Thank you.
Thank you. To EPA Administrator to your right, Michael Regan, welcome back again to New Jersey. Thrilled to have you here. You and I have a virtual and telephone relationship, but it's great to be with you face to face.
Absolutely.
A few months back, I said that if anyone wants to see what the future of America looks like, they should look to New Jersey. So I am especially honored that our state and the city of Newark, which I'll get to in a minute, can be a model for the nation in protecting our families and children from the dangers of lead. I know we'll hear shortly from the great leader to my left, Newark Mayor Ras J. Baraka. We will also hear as well from residents. Vivian Carter is with us, Stephanie Jones, and Shakima Troutman. And we'll also hear from Paulo Peralta and Amanda Gentle to my right, who were each involved in Newark's lead service line replacement effort. I cannot say enough about the mayor's leadership, members of council along his side in mitigating one of the state's greatest pre-pandemic emergent challenges. Under your stewardship, Mayor, Newark has replaced every one of its 23,000 lead service lines. As I said to the Vice President and Administrator early, I think we all thought 8 to 10 years would be a reasonable time frame. You got it done in 2.5 years, which makes it even more extraordinary. And by the way, you didn't let the pandemic slow or stop the work. Your crews, Kareem Adim is here. Kareem gets a lot of credit here. They stayed on the job. And while we cannot ignore that lead exposure has been a health crisis focused primarily in our cities and on black and brown families and children, the risks run broad and deep. I first unveiled, Madam Vice President, a comprehensive statewide lead strategy in 2019, covering not just the dangers of lead in water, but the dangers of lead paint and other sources. Last summer, I was proud to sign a new state law requiring every lead service line to be cataloged and removed by the year 2031. I want to thank the legislators you all heard from Majority Leader Teresa Ruiz. Our Speaker of the Assembly, Craig Coughlin, is with us. Cleopatra Tucker is in the House. It has been estimated that there are some 350,000 lead service lines in New Jersey alone. We've already identified at least 185 of them, 185,000 rather. 1 million or more remain to be reviewed. And as you know, this is not an inexpensive problem, and tackling it will require all levels of government working together. As they say, this one takes a village. Mayor Baraka did not have the benefit of the bipartisan infrastructure law to help him finance Newark's efforts. Essex County was there under the great leadership of County Executive Joe DiVincenzo. The New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection under the great leadership of Commissioner Sean LaTourette each stepped up to provide essential funding. So the nearly $170 million bipartisan infrastructure law is delivering to our state now, specifically for water infrastructure improvements this year alone. It could not be more perfectly timed. I don't know where we'd be with our extraordinary congressional delegation. Both of our great senators are here, Senator Bob Menendez, Senator Cory Booker, two outstanding members of the House, Chairman Frank Pallone and Congressman Donald Payne. So thank you, gentlemen, and your colleagues. And through our water infrastructure investment plan, we will leverage this federal investment and ensure that funding reaches underserved communities. So, Madam Vice President, Administrator, I am honored that you have come to New Jersey to highlight this critical aspect of the law and the partnerships it will foster. We would not be here if not for your efforts and those of President Biden and the work of our entire congressional delegation. So on behalf of our state and the great city of Newark and its families and our nation, I thank you both, and I thank President Biden for all of your leadership and partnership. God bless you, and again, great to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Governor Murphy, and it is wonderful to be back in New Jersey, the home state of my husband, and a place where I've spent a good amount of time over many years. I want to thank you, Governor, for your role of leadership. You and I talked when you greeted me on the tarmac, but your signature on legislation to remove all lead pipes from New Jersey over the course of 10 years, which is a relatively short amount of time, given how long this issue has been an issue, is extraordinary and is part of the role model of how we are looking at what we can do as a nation. So thank you for the warm welcome always. Mayor, I thank you. Newark, New Jersey is such an important place in our country for so many reasons, in terms of its history, in terms of its vitality, in terms of its contribution to who we are as a nation. And this has been a long-standing issue, and you came in, cut through red tape, made this a high priority, and have now made it such a role model that for the administrator and I, who have taken to a road show to talk about the importance of removing lead from pipes and paint, we came here at the beginning of this tour to highlight what you have accomplished here in Newark as an example and a role model of what cities around our country are capable of doing. I thank you for that.
Thank you.
I thank you for that.
Thank you.
We purposely designed this visit today to hear from our community leaders, but we know that the work that can be done as a nation on eliminating this lead, which is having a profound impact on our children, on our most vulnerable communities. We came here because these are community leaders who are also role models for the nation, where we have met many community leaders, Administrator, around the country, who have been the voice of conscience with clear purpose and commitment and courage to propel this issue in a way that we would act, and act in a way that was not incremental, but about achieving what we know is possible, which is to get rid of this problem. It's hurting our babies. Over half of the children of our nation who are under the age of 6 are at risk on this issue. It is well documented, and at this point without debate, what this does in terms of impeding the God-given capacity of our children to learn and to thrive. It is a public health issue. It is an equity issue. It is an issue of education. It is an issue of whether we are willing to invest in our future in terms of investing in our communities. All that is what is present on this topic. So I thank the community leaders, I thank the elected leaders. I see my dear friend, Senator Cory Booker here, and Senator Bob Menendez, the chairman of a most important committee, especially at this point. And I want to thank you too, because I have served with them in the United States Senate, and I know, based on personal experience and as a witness of what they did in the Senate to make sure that federal dollars would come to New Jersey with speed and priority to address this issue. So I want to acknowledge and thank the senators for your role of leadership. You deserve a lot of credit for this. Chairman Pallone, Congressman Donald Payne, we have talked about all these issues so many times. You are incredible advocates for this state, for this district, for the districts you represent. And I appreciate you always reminding the president and me of what is at stake on the ground on this and so many other issues. So thank you for that. And again, I want to thank the community members. We'll get into a more in-depth conversation. I'm about to pass the microphone over to the administrator, but I cannot tell you enough how important your roles of leadership have been to remind community leaders around the country that when you speak up, often with great frustration, but with great purpose and courage, it matters and it makes a difference. You all are role models for community leaders around the country who may have, through their frustration and pain with this issue, have thought that and wondered whether it makes a difference. You all are proof that it makes a difference. It makes a difference. So I thank you for that. And with that, I will now pass the mic over to the administrator of the Environmental and Protection Agency for all of his work in pushing this through our administration. Michael Regan.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. It is so good. You all can see that her passion on this topic is so infectious. And I'm lucky enough to get a chance to travel the country and talk about this issue with someone who has a long-standing history of fighting for justice and equity. So thank you for your leadership, Madam Vice President. Governor Murphy, it's always good to see you. Congratulations on a hard-fought victory. We know that this state has a champion, not only just for the environment, but public health as well. Mayor Baraka, thank you, sir, for having us back. You know, if it was your goal to hide, you've blown through that, because we're going to take this and we're going to promote this all over this country. This is exactly what the president and the vice president envisioned when we focused on lead pipes removal. To our congressional leaders, Senator Booker, my good friend, until he just said he wanted to charge me New Jersey tax because I come too much. Senator Menendez, our good friend Chairman Malone, Congressman Payne, thank you all so much for joining us, and thank you for your efforts. It's because of your leadership and the Vice President's leadership that we have the bipartisan infrastructure law, and we have resources to help replicate what's happening in Newark all over this country. So listen, we're here to listen to the members of Newark. Members who understand and whose lives have been directly touched by the city's historic efforts to remove every lead service line that there is. So thank you, all of you, for participating today and sharing your story. Now, we have about 22 minutes, so we want to be sure that each of you get a chance to tell your story, but Ms. Jones has told me that I better keep it on time so she can get her picture with the Vice President at the end of this. So I'm going to follow those instructions and jump right on in. To get us started, I'd like to start with Ms. Shamika Troutman, a lifelong Newark resident, born and raised, proud mother of 3 wonderful children, a New Jersey trained operator, and a new homeowner. Can you share with us what this lead replacement project has meant to you, especially as a new homeowner, and what it will mean for your children as well?
Thank you, Mr. Regan, and I just want to say hello to everyone here, and it's a pleasure to be here. It's meant a lot to me because I was a new homeowner and I was renovating the home. And as a new homeowner, you are inundated with so much.
Let's make sure her microphone is on. Or if not, you can use mine. Here, use this. Okay, there you go.
Thank you. Hello? Okay.
Okay,
All right, awesome. Can I get closer? Yeah. Okay. I was just saying that it really meant a lot to me. It was really one less thing that I had to worry about as a new homeowner. It's a plethora of information that you're receiving just being a new homeowner. I was renovating the home at the time, so that was one less thing that I had to worry about. So I'm very grateful to our Mayor, Ras Baraka, for getting the lead eradicated in our city. And as a new homeowner, you have so many different things to worry about. So having this process in place, like the city implemented a process from signing up for, the lead removal, getting the lead pipe out of the home, and also the contractors. They took care of everything. So as a new homeowner, that was one less thing that I had to worry about, because I'm worrying about the roof and the, plumbing and electrical and everything like that. So it was definitely a burden, one less thing for me to worry about that I didn't have to do, and the city covered that. Also, it gave accountability. So, when you're having work done in your home, sometimes it's hard to find, contractors that are, reputable. So having the city take this on, it gave accountability to the project being done and that it was going to be done correctly. So I'm very grateful for that.
That is great.
Yep.
Thank you for
Thank
sharing
you.
that.
All right, Shakina.
Okay, no problem. What I would like to point out in terms of Ms. Troutman's story is one of the things that we purposely designed in the bipartisan infrastructure law with the leadership of the congressional members who are here is that for too long on this issue, homeowners or even renters have had to suffer the burden of, for that part of the service line or pipe that's on their property, that they'd have to foot the bill. Thousands and thousands of dollars, right? While people are trying to get through the end of the month. And so what we purposely designed in the infrastructure law is that because of the help of our congressional leaders who said that we got to get these federal dollars to the states and to the agencies, that the homeowner would not have to bear that burden. But it's also about putting in place, Mayor, the infrastructure at the local level so that the homeowner, to your point, doesn't have to worry about it in terms of finding a contractor. And this is where LIUNA and our partnership with our friends and the leaders in organized labor and those who've been doing the training and doing the work have all these highly skilled contractors and workers who can do the work in partnership with local government. So the homeowner does not have to worry. And that's the theme. You should not have to worry about that. So thank you.
All right. Well, thank you all for that. And now we're going to turn to Ms. Jones, another native of Newark, mother of 4 children and a grandmother of 3. I understand that your block was one of the first to be serviced. Can you tell us a little bit about your story and about that process?
Yes, good morning. It's
Good
an honor to
morning.
be here amongst everyone this morning. I'm glad my vote counted, and Madam Vice President.
Good morning.
Good morning. Like Mr. Reagan was saying, my home was one of the first ones when they started the project. In the beginning, it was a little hookup, but we came out. We talked to the people. They came out. When they came in our house, the pipes was like leaking. They came back and fixed it. They didn't give us no hard time. My granddaughter, she was like a little concerned because they were saying that lead was in the water in school. So I assured her that Newark is working on it. They're gonna fix the problem. You should be good. But so I was really concerned, more so because she was more concerned. So when they started saying that they was going to fix it, I was listening to a lot of the town hall meetings that they were having, and I was assuring her, as well as ourselves, that they will get the project done, and we should be good with the water. So I'm so happy that Ross and his team did everything they could to make sure we were safe with the lead in the water. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. And Ms. Jones' story, and thank you for sharing it, is about how it affects multiple generations within one household. Right. For you as a grandmother, and your grandbabies worrying about whether they could actually drink water from the tap, or would they be healthy, especially during their formative years, their years of critical development. So thank you for sharing that story.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Ms. Jones. And now we'll turn to Ms. Amanda Gentle. You've been with the veteran-owned Newark-based engineering firm Roman E&G for 14 years and serve as a project manager in the company's water division. I understand that you've been one of the main points of contact for the community. Can you tell us how many homes you serviced or how many lead service lines you've replaced and how important it's been to collaborate directly with the community members?
Yes, hi, good morning. It's an honor to be here today, and I really appreciate everyone and their efforts to make this program a success. We have worked on 14,000 homes, just above, changing out over 12,000 lead service lines. And in my opinion, as a contractor, we have done a lot of different public work, but the City of Newark has gone above and beyond to change the accessibility for everyone. In my opinion, there are 3 things that the City of Newark did that are significantly different from other utilities with the lead service lines that I've worked on. And I think number 1 is the communication with the community. And as these women said, it's the education they've given their residents. Having after-hours meetings at local community venues where people can go and ask questions. Having an online presence where you can go online and check the status of your own home. Having the mayor do daily updates on Facebook, especially during the pandemic, and speaking about these things. Telling the people there is a lead crisis and we need to fix it, and here's how we're going to do it. So that communication was really important, and I think that helped everybody involved start moving forward. The second is that the City of Newark took responsibility for the entire line, from the main to the meter. This is significantly different from other public utilities, where if it is lead on the homeowner side, they're still responsible for it. Newark taking up that cost says you don't have to be in a certain economic position to have access to clean water. Everyone gets clean water, and I think that's absolutely amazing. The last is that you guys are homeowners. A lot of the city, they're renters, and the city passed an ordinance that allows tenants and renters to authorize this work to be done. And I think that that was a game changer, especially as a contractor, to get access to these homes because people didn't know their rights. And this allowed, we had 11 contracts, like I said. So we've been at 14,000 homes, 12,000 replacements. There have been hiccups. But overall, the success of this project, I think is monumental and should continue to be a model for the rest of the country. And as a mother, and an expectant mother with my second on the way, and a homeowner myself, it has been an honor to work with the City of Newark and the government and what you guys are doing. You're changing people's lives.
Absolutely.
As we've talked to the residents a lot, we've heard people, our children have lead poisoning. Like it's sad, and it's wonderful to be making a difference. And the City of Newark is great. You guys are great. You truly are.
One of the aspects of the many that you have highlighted is the importance of the communication between government leaders, elected leaders, and the community, because for too long on this issue, community members have had to almost silently suffer without an acknowledgement of the seriousness of the issue, without an acknowledgement of the fact that it has reached crisis proportions, and without acknowledgement then of the need with a sense of urgency to fix the issue. And again, this has been a model of how that works and how it then has effect. The other piece that you pointed out that bears repeating is the equity issue here. Because lead pipes do exist in high-income communities, but in high-income communities, they have the income to fix it. Which means that whether it gets fixed or not might be a function of how much money you have. And that, of course, is not right. So that's why this issue also has to be addressed in the way that you've done so well here, and thank you for that.
Yes, thank you. Well, thank you, Ms. Gentle. And now I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Paulo Peralta, a member of LIUNA and a Newark resident who worked directly on the lead service line replacement. Mr. Peralta, the work that you will do to protect thousands of people from lead contamination is so outstanding. Can you tell us how you got involved in this work, and what does this work mean to you?
Muy buenos días.
Good morning, everyone.
Agradezco primeramente a Dios,
I want to thank God every day
a las autoridades del estado de New Jersey
for the government of New Jersey
y a la vicepresidenta de los Estados
and
Unidos.
Madam President, Vice President.
Mi nombre es Paulo Peralta.
My name is Paulo Peralta.
Vivo 16 años en el estado de New Jersey, en la ciudad de Newark.
I have been living in Newark, New Jersey for 16 years.
Tengo 2 niños
I have 2 sons.
y trabajé 2 años cambiando los tubos de LED por cobre.
I have been working on changing the lead pipelines for 2 years.
Comenzamos trabajando con el cambio de las tuberías gracias al mayor Baraja, que nos dio la oportunidad a los residentes de Newark para hacer el trabajo.
We started working on the pipelines. Thank you for Mayor Baraka that we started working on the pipelines. It started during COVID.
Comenzamos a trabajar muy fuerte en el invierno haciendo el cambio de los pipes y las familias estaban muy contentas porque era un cambio de las tuberías gratis que estaba haciendo la ciudad.
We started working on the pipelines during winter, and most of the families were so grateful that we started working on them.
Además de que era algo que no tenía costo, era algo muy interesante, era muy importante para la salud de toda la comunidad.
Even though we started on the pipelines, it was something that was free for the community, and like I said, they were very grateful.
Así que trabajamos duro en invierno, en verano, y yo le agradezco a las autoridades por el trabajo, porque así pudimos mantener a nuestra familia en el tiempo de la pandemia. Muy agradecido con todos. Muchísimas gracias.
We started working in the summer and the winter, and the families are so grateful. Thank you, everyone, for the job you do.
So I'd like to thank you so very much. Mr. Peralta, because this is clearly a table of real leaders and role models, and you are, of course, a real role model for the importance of this work, but also the significance of the training and the skills development that happens in our labor unions, in LIUNA in particular. In fact, with LIUNA, we, with your union, announced this plan, the Biden-Harris Lead Pipe and Paint Action Plan, in December. In fact, you all may know the Secretary of Labor, Marty Walsh, is a very proud member of your union. And even in January, the administrator and I were in Milwaukee meeting with workers there to see the extraordinary training and skills that are required to do this work, and how with the federal investment in a commitment to getting rid of this issue over a short period of time nationally, it's also about jobs development. And to get the jobs done, it means investment in job training. It means investment in upgrading the skills of our workforce and partnering with our labor unions, who are some of the best equipped, traditionally, historically, and currently, to create the apprenticeships that develop the skills that are necessary to do this work. Thank you, Mr. Peralta.
Thank you very much.
And for our final participant, I'd like to turn to Miss Vivian Carter, which I believe I hear that you'll soon be celebrating your 29th birthday. Is that correct?
A little bit more than that.
All right, well, happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you for being with us today. You are a retired educator, a lifelong Newark resident, and a proud mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother.
Yes, I am.
As a senior and lifelong Newark resident, I understand that you are extremely active in your community. Can you tell us more about the outreach that you did to seniors, specifically, and the care that was taken to ensure things were not only put back as they were, but put back, as you say, better than before?
First, I'd like to say good morning. It is truly an honor, and I am truly blessed to be here this morning. But as a lifelong resident of the city of Newark, publicly, I want to thank our mayor, and he's heard me say this before, for a job well done. He's been chosen, and for the position and for the challenge, God has blessed him to meet it. And so I stand before you today. I was very active in what took place in the city of Newark and the community in which I live, which is the Ivy Hill Neighborhood Association community in Ivy Hill. And we are an umbrella for many of the block associations in the community. Ironically, Stephanie and Sakima live in my community also. And as a part of that, we are always in tune and very respectful as to what the needs and wants of are the people in the city of Newark, not just the West Ward, which I live. So we had the opportunity to request a meeting, sort of, with Director Kadeem and the mayor, who came to one of our residents' homes, and we literally had a block gathering as to what was going to take place and how they were going to be able to meet the challenge. It was very eye-opening. It was very, I mean, they stood for hours abating any questions and concerns we had. And as a senior, I wanted to know, because I have many seniors in the community in which I live, retired educators, by the way. And the concern is we're on fixed income. How is this going to fracture our in and out, going for doctor's appointments or other to the supermarket or other places we need to go? Because one thing about our area also, it's a lot of one-ways, and then we're right near the Ivy Hill Park. So further up, we even had dead-end streets. So all of this was a concern for us. And so when they came, they assured us and reassured us that none of this could not be done without the community support. Right. So we came up together, I must say, and thank you so much, with a solution for that, which was to get the Ivy Hill Neighborhood Association involved when actually, because we know our neighbors, we're a very close group in the community in the West Ward, we actually assisted them with going around to our neighbors and asking them to do the release form and to sign it so that we can get it back down to the department as soon as possible. But not only that, what the mayor has done is assured us that as the work was being done, and Amanda could testify to this, because whenever I called, if she wasn't available, she called me back. As a retired educator and I'm home, I was able to assess what was being done. I even have pictures of my home.
Can you pass that down?
Yes. I even have pictures, as you can see, when they started. And I also want to congratulate the People's Assembly, which is a city program that the mayor has created. And they always keep us abreast as to what was going on. And community meetings were arranged around the city, and they were specific for the status of the Newark's water and lead service line replacement. And this was key, because if you had a concern, they addressed it right away. If you made a phone call and you saw something not being done properly, it was addressed right away. And also, I know for sure, they started at 6 a.m. and they didn't finish until the sun went down. And so even though it might have disrupted the normal flow, because they were consistent and because they were reassuring as to the diligence of getting it done in decency and in order, and making sure it was abated, it was a relief to the neighbors and to the community. I also would like to say that we were reassured that they came out to really just see what was going on. And as we have a group fee for our association, so anytime anybody had a concern or needed a question answered, they'd put it on the group meeting. And I think every day you had Facebook Live, and he would address it. And so that made a big impact on residents. And as Shakima said, she's a new homeowner. But I've been in my home for 33 years. And you have others who've been up there for longer than that. And so to get the lead pipes replaced and get the situation taken care of, as an educator, I know the effects of lead on children. And for us to now be reassured that we as residents in the city of Newark, and my home is a family home, So there's always a generation that's there that we don't have to worry about any more toxic lead affecting the lives of generations now and those yet to come. So again,
so
thank you.
this is part of the spirit behind the work that has been done here as a model and the work that must be done, which is to treat every individual who is facing this issue, understanding their home is a family home. And for that reason must be treated with the dignity, the respect, and the sense of urgency that comes with understanding that home is a family home. But truly, to create an environment as a leader in a community that allows folks to come in a safe place, without judgment, to ask the questions that are the details of life. Is this gonna mess up my ability to get to school or get to the grocery store, get to church, get to the doctor's office? That's real. And then we want to make sure that when we implement these plans, that they actually are helpful and don't get in the way of the other obligations people have for their lives. But because you created that space and then used that voice in a way that made sure the details of the plan actually worked for the community, that's why this is a role model. So I thank you, Mrs. Carter, very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Well, I want to thank you, Ms. Carter. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. And before I turn it back over to the Vice President, I would be remiss if we did not ask our fearless leader, the Mayor, to just say a few remarks before the Vice President closes it out for us.
Oh, thank you. I wasn't expecting to say anything, but I want to thank the Vice President for being here, for sure. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you again. It just means so much. I mean, it all hit me tomorrow. I want to thank the administrator for being here, Regan, our governor, and all the other elected officials here. I mean, people talk about the pressure that it took to make this. The big pressure was in my own house. In the middle of this pandemic, my wife was pregnant, and I live in an old home in the Weequahic section. We had to get our lead service lines replaced too. I was drinking water out of a filter that there was question about whether it worked or not. So she was yelling more than the people in the community was. So the urgency to get it done was very close to me. And we did it, and I want to thank everybody in this room for making it happen. So thank you. God bless you all.
God bless you.
Madam Vice President, you want to take us home?
Yeah, you know, just briefly, because so much has been said that needs to be said. This is about a matter of great urgency, and obviously, a matter that is about our children and investing in their health and well-being. So that makes this a public health issue, a public health crisis, dare I say. This is an issue that is about community leadership, and on any issue that we face as a nation, certainly any issue that reaches crisis proportion. Let's use this as an example of where community leadership always leads us in the right direction. Let us think of this as an issue that is, yes, Mrs. Carter, about education, and then the intersection that always exists between public health and education, because that's always a link. Where you see a public health matter that in particular affects children, you will find an educational issue. This is an issue that is about America's workforce and the excellence of that workforce, because we have created structures that allow for incredible training and skills development. And when we do the partnership between elected leaders and governments, and in particular on this issue, our building trades, the workers who have the skill to get the job done, then we see that the job actually gets done. So all of these issues come together around not only the crisis, but really we are here to not talk about the crisis as much as the solution. The solution is evident, and so the bipartisan infrastructure law, the Biden-Harris Lead Pipe and Paint Action Plan is about using this as a model of what we will do around the country. And for that reason, I thank everybody, because it's not difficult to be a role model, because you got to kind of create it on your own, but you guys did that. And now other cities, and other families and children around our country will benefit from the work you did right here. So thank you all. Governor, again, thank you for the warm welcome. Mayor, thank you for your extraordinary leadership. To the members of Congress, the senators, the Congress members, I thank you all.
I want to echo the Vice President's statements, and I do want to say, as we're traveling the country, this is a significant issue in so many places, and unlike many of the places that she and I have been and we plan to go, it's inspiring that we're in a place that has a solution. This Newark pride is contagious. So I just want to say thank you all for your leadership. We're going to carry this story across the country, and I think we should all stand up and just give this topic a round of applause.
Oh, good for you.